Hello there, welcome to the channel, welcome back perhaps, and we're diving into another little experiment in the series that we've been exploring using the POG2 for various different things, and as well as our experiments with fuzz and various different octaves, and then as an alternative to the float, which we're going to turn on there. We are also wondering if it might be a way to include a synth in things, because we recorded a video in the studio one time where we looked at introducing synth sounds into our rig, and it was not entirely successful. Generally it was okay. However, when we started getting into the low register, it was not tracking, or at least it didn't appear to be tracking. So an idea that we had was that we could very easily take the low notes up an octave with the POG, and then, if we wanted to, bring them down an octave to the original pitch with the Enzo, thereby achieving whatever kind of effect we wanted. We've been playing around a little bit with this. We will see where it all goes, but first of all, a basic demonstration of how this would fit into our rig, and how the Enzo sounds, because the Enzo is a beautiful, wonderful machine with many different uses. But at the moment we have it very simple, with just a mono synth. Filter is fully open, don't have any delay, we have a reasonable amount of sustain, no envelope or anything like that. We do have it pitched 2 octaves up, so it's nice and easy to hear. And what we're going to do first is run through some of our contrabass clarinet samples and hear how they sound with the synth. And we do have it at wet and dry mixed for the time being, just to give an idea. So here is our mid-range on the contrabass sample, which is the top range of the instrument, and then we will add the Enzo. There we go. And you can hear how that's tracking very nicely there. Also seems to be responding to a bit of noise in the system. But you hear how that does. You can also hear, we're going to take the dry signal out. You can hear how there is some picking up of the tonguing going on there as well. Even more noticeable if we introduce so you can hear how even with in the ideal register, where we know things operate nicely, there's still some I mean, problem is the wrong word there, but there is definitely some let's say complexity, because we could very easily work that kind of like clicking into a sound without any problem, but we would also like to be able to not use it, which is seems not possible here. Okay, now we're into the has that gotten rid of it? No. Okay. We are into now the bass range, and I believe this is where you'll start to hear some of the tracking problems that we were talking about. Here we go. How did we get into that? There we go. You hear what I mean. And now that we get to the sub-bass range, hopefully this will be the perfect example. Yeah, let's increase the sustain a little bit. Yeah, it's just got nothing to sustain onto. And this is what we were experiencing. This is what we were experiencing in the studio. In that it's not that the sound disappears; it's just that it is completely swallowed up by because it's such an interfered sound that it just doesn't come through when there is a lot of other stuff going on, fuzz or delay or whatever, on the signal that it's operating parallel to. So the idea that we had was that we could take that sub-bass range and maybe put it up an octave, put it down an octave. Let's give that a try. So basically we will do it and then we will replace it with the 1 octave up, and then we'll try with 2 octaves up. So you will remember that adding this, pretty much the tone stays the same until we introduce the dry effects then. In other words, the effects here onto the dry signal. So here is our same problem. No. And this is why it's not going to work. Because, as you can hear, when we put these sub-bass notes up an octave, it still has the same kind of distorted sound that those notes have anyway. It's just up an octave, so the tracking on the Enzo can still not quite connect to them. Let me show you what I mean. The Enzo is off, so let's just go with the hear what I mean? and then at pitch. Doesn't matter if you put it up the octave. Doesn't matter if you put it up 2 octaves. Still got that same distortion in it that the Enzo cannot track. So, that is the problem that we have here, is that it does not, regardless of how many octaves up it's put, the distortedness of the sound doesn't change anything. Which brings us to the other possibility that we're going to introduce here, which is adding some dry effects onto the some effects onto the dry signal. So for example, like some attack, some low pass filter, some detune. First of all though, let's just note how that changes with the dry effects. So here's the sound without the effects. Can the Enzo track it any better? No. How about with some low pass filter? You can hear how it's a little bit better with low pass filter. And then we've got those bizarre extra notes, which I guess is the Enzo responding to some like final harmonics at the end of the end of the note. So does that hold true also for the other octaves? Let's hear how it sounds without the Enzo, but with an octave up. So we were like that before, right? An octave up. You can still hear how it's kind of distorted, right? You can hear the buzz in it. Woo! Far out. I mean, it's fascinating, but it's not what we want. Yeah. Yeah, the filter helps. Detune adds even more wildness to it, so this is what it's responding to. That's an interesting effect. not unusable, especially with some like nice delay after it or something. Reverb, spring, or like, yeah, I'm sorry, we're adding the R1 here. Yeah, that's the big fucking reverb there, BFR. But, yeah. Unfortunately, our conclusion here is that this is not going to work, and you know, we have also played around with the attack. I'll demonstrate that a little bit. Let's go back to the octave where we seem to have the most effective response. I mean, that's, you see, that's the thing, is that we get those things at the end. Yeah, I guess there's not enough. What's going on here? There's not enough to trigger the envelope. I think the Enzo has just given up, to be honest. Okay. Yeah. Let's see if the attack will do anything. No. Yeah. Yeah, I think the overall conclusion here is that it is simply too unpredictable. Even when those low register notes are put up an octave or 2 octaves and have an a low pass filter added, then the it's not going to work. Another option might be to try some kind of high pass filter, perhaps. That might be worth a try. There is a high pass filter on the Enzo, but I think that would affect the synth and not the sound going into the synth. We have a high pass filter here that we might be able to play with. So maybe that's worth a look as well. But I think for now that we're going to say that we have not yet figured out how to incorporate synth sounds here. It's also worth noting that we have tried the poly, and just to give you a quick demonstration of that, we're just going to turn that off and show you what it sounds like with the poly mode. Here we go. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a pretty amazing effect, but let's try with this now. It's just very messy. Sustain is pretty much off there anyway, so. I mean, yes, that's all very interesting. It's like not unusable, perhaps, but at the same time, it's not what we're going for with the idea of being able to add mono-synth lines on top of things. Maybe having some fuzz after the Enzo would work. That might be fun. One way to make that unpredictability at the end of the octave up selection interesting in some way. Alternatively, there's a device out there that splits your signal into high and low registers, such that we would be able to have low notes not going to the Enzo. I'm having a hard time remembering. Is it Eastern Effects? XO crossover? Something like that. But for the time being, we are going to consider this a worthwhile and interesting experiment that did not do what we were hoping it might, but was still interesting. I hope it has been as interesting and enjoyable for you as much as it has been for us. And thank you for sticking around. And until next time, take care.